You're live. Hi there, you're joining us on March 25th at 9 a.m. with the Senate Transportation Committee. Our chair is not here today, so you get me as the chair. So we're joined by David Pelletier, and you're going to tell us about the policy planning and research budget. So take it away. We have till 10.
I hope to be finished well in advance of that,
Okay.
but we'll see where it goes. Thanks for having me. As you mentioned, I'm Dave Pelletier. I'm a planning manager at the Agency of Transportation, and I'm going to give you a brief presentation on the policy planning and research proposed budget for federal or for state fiscal year 2027. Just a handful of slides, so hopefully there'll be plenty of opportunity for question and answer and discussion. At the highest level, I'll just give you kind of a look at money in, money out, and in a really broad sense here. The policy planning and research budget is largely federal funded. It's about 80% federal funding. And let me just take a step back here too. So when I say policy planning and research, you have a better sense of what that means in terms of what we're doing at the agency and what it encompasses. And there's a slide that will capture what I'm about to kind of rattle off for you for a short little bullet list here. So no need to memorize or write it down, but components of it include the regional planning program and the MPO relationship with the CCRPC, Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission in the greater Burlington area. That includes in the budget, that includes both the staffing that we have at the agency to operate our end of those programs, as well as the pass-through funding to the regional planning commissions and the metropolitan planning organization. So you'll see, and I'll point these out in a couple different ways on these slides so you can see that portion of the funding. It's a significant portion that we end up passing through for all of that work. And then, like I said, we do hold some back to be able to be on the AOT end of things and coordinating from our shop. In this budget, we also include our systems planning group, a small group of planners that work on our statewide planning initiatives, including the rail plan. We've been involved in that lately, and the freight plan for the state, as well as the long range transportation plan for the state, which we'll be getting into later this year for an update. We also have our development review group that reviews Act 250 applications for transportation impacts on the state system. We have our mapping crew that takes care of everything mileage related and data related having to do with all the highway systems, which is really important because that forms the foundation for the basis for funding allotments and all sorts of different planning and federally and state required kind of inventories of assets throughout the state. We have permitting, which is our 1111, our access permit team, small crew of people that handle review and issuance of permits when people want to do work or construct anything in or around the state right of way.
We hear a lot about 11.
Okay.
So.
All right. Good to know. And we have the last two components are the research program, which is a small but mighty group of a couple of really smart and motivated people that coordinate all the research that takes place at the agency, which is not just highway oriented, but gets into a whole range of policy considerations and a whole breadth of subject matter. And then last but not least, we do have our public outreach component, which is really at the moment a team of one with Amy Tadco that handles communications and kind of the public interface aspects of the agency's work. So I'll show you all of that in a more of a budget format, but for the purpose of just having a little bit more context and understanding what I'm showing in these pie charts here, that's what is kind of baked into these pie charts, no pun intended. Mm-hmm. So again, just quickly, the funding coming in, majority is federal funding. And there's a state match that's required for that. And then there's a small amount of interdepartmental transfer, which is a small pot of money that comes in both from ANR and ACCD to fund our Better Connections grant program or fund a portion of our Better Connections grant program, which you may be familiar with, and we can talk about more after if you're interested. And then on the way out, as mentioned, the majority of the funding goes through and out the agency to the RPCs and to the MPO. The MPO portion is significant. It's about $5 million or so. And the RPC grants make up, oh, I'm not going to guess, it's on a subsequent slide, but it's a portion of that 10 million. And then personal services accounts for all of the staffing and consultant time that we have at the agency for all of the work. And then the operating, the small piece there is like our portion of the budget to keep the lights on and such.
Are you good with questions as we go
Yeah,
along?
absolutely.
So the grants to the MPO, are those
Mhm.
for actual projects, or is it for policy and planning of MPO staff?
It's for planning staff and consultant time for planning studies and work included in their unified planning work program.
Okay, so it's basically their operations,
Exactly.
but not their
Yeah,
projects.
exactly.
Okay.
And that amount of funding is identified at the federal level and simply comes through the Agency of Transportation as a pass through. So they've, as a populous area in the state, they have this direct kind of apportionment of funding from the Federal Highway Administration.
Right, and I would like to at some point just get more detail on that.
Sure.
And then your permits,
Mhm.
not the Active 50 permits particularly. How do you decide, or how does the agency decide which ones to take up?
We have staff that reviews each permit that we are identified as being potential party to. And they have traffic engineering skills and basically go through an analysis of what the traffic impacts would be based on the development proposal and make a judgment call about whether or not there's anything to be concerned about from our standpoint in terms of impacts on the state system. And then in cases where there are going to be impacts and it falls under the framework that's been in place through for several years under Act 145, we may assess an impact, small impact fee to that developer through that framework.
Right, that's the fee that's for a particular thing, like an intersection. Or something.
Exactly.
So could you talk a little bit, because something kind of interesting in our system is that some areas of Active 50 will require a developer to support a transit operation. So it's, for example, a ski resort to support a transit operation just directly.
Yeah, but we've never really done that, right? Like, no,
No,
really.
we have done that.
Okay,
Yeah, and
Part of the Active 50.
yes, $100,000 a year
yeah.
for more than 10 years. That hasn't increased. But so there is at least one district who's doing that, and it can make it makes a lot of difference to the funding for transit. So do you know why some districts do that and some don't, or?
I'm afraid I can't really speak to that. It's something that we could come back to, but I'm definitely not expert in that particular area.
Okay, well, it would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess with the appeal file, like, if you're doing an Act 250 review and then someone requests that, is that how it happens? Or it's,
Well,
or it's the review of the LURB now is who?
the district, the Active 50
Part of the
district.
transportation criteria.
Yeah, so they
Right.
can require it. Okay.
Right,
Well,
right, and they've also required housing in those, but that's not relevant to this, so.
So we
but
could
I'm
ask
just-
Rich to see if we could get,
I think it's really important, and it's in that,
the district, it would be judge, it would be the district court, it would be the judge, right? We would
yeah,
ask
it's not a judge,
No.
but the district,
District Court.
administrator.
Yeah, if you know your district coordinator, they could come present to us.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather have the agency present, just because it's something that the agency has the authority to do, and we're not doing.
Well,
Oh, I guess I don't,
so if I could, Jeremy Reed, Chief Engineer, so each individual environmental commission decides how each criteria is satisfied. The agency doesn't have the sole authority to mandate something like that. We are a statutory party and we can certainly make suggestions and provide that recommendation, but ultimately the district commission decides what conditions to impose or not to impose on an applicant.
there we go.
Well, I think we could help the agency include that in your review.
Yeah.
Because you can do things, you're not beholden to just what the district says. You can have additional requirements. But let's have that conversation.
Okay, yeah, maybe it's,
I mean, it's,
I don't know how we would direct them to do that, but yeah, I'll ask and see if we can get someone to come in. Maybe Michelle would know. I know that Michelle Buchauer kind of very in and around this conversation, but maybe we just request if she has someone who could speak to it.
Yeah, if I could suggest maybe having somebody from the land use review board come in and talk about how that occurs, because again, we're a statutory party, but that's it. We don't have any authority beyond that.
Cool.
well, okay, so then just to. I know of an instance in Brattleboro where the agency wanted a transit amenity to happen.
Yep.
And then it was overturned by the town chose not to do it. But the agency did ask for that.
Yep.
So it's really important. Jonathan Slason's report, the 181 report, talked
Yeah,
about
we
it.
got it.
But when in time when we're looking for revenue, and these are private entities that are generally pretty well off, and we're subsidizing them instead of them subsidizing transit.
Yeah, TDM strategies. We love
Right,
it.
exactly.
All right. Okay, so another pie chart here, and really it pretty much reflects what I've already covered in terms of the split out of the funding by section, and reflects very clearly the pass through to the MPO, and then the RPC grants. It says TPI, that's the Transportation Planning Initiative. Those are annual grants that we provide to the regional planning commissions, scope of work that we agree upon and work to coordinate on and communicate back and forth about transportation planning matters, and kind of work collaboratively to address issues as they come up in the regions, and then also looking out forward long term. RPCs help us a lot with our statewide planning efforts as well, and provide the venue for public meetings and communications out into the municipalities about those efforts. As well as we use it as a conduit to hear back from the communities about what's going on and what the regional priorities are as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just another,
This is, you're really on topic.
Well,
Like, she's-
this is where I think things could be better.
Yeah.
The priority process
Mhm.
that the state used to do in concert with the regional commissions, where the locals would prioritize projects in different categories. That's not happening now, right?
I think, did Jeremy?
Correct, but we hit a pause on BPSP two because the program is full. So there's no point taking a project we know we can't deliver at this stage.
And that was about 4 years ago, is what I understand.
3 to 4 years ago, it was just before I became chief engineer.
Okay, so my opinion is that is especially important when money is tight and you're getting rid of projects. I think prioritization is really important when you're getting rid of projects, and that the locals should have an opportunity to prioritize, because there are things like economic development and that the state might not be, possibly your area would have information about future development and how that's planned in concert with
And
transportation.
that's one of the things that we do query the RPCs for, to have communications about is just the context for projects that are already existing.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we're really trying to focus on now, where we don't have capacity for new projects in our programs, is okay, the ones that are out there that are already programmed, what's the context? What are the issues going on in the area? How can we make for a better project? So the contextualization of the projects that are already programmed, which is in part what you're talking
Yes.
about the local knowledge and prioritization of what's going on out there. So we're trying to, short of being able to take new projects in, we're still trying to leverage this relationship to make sure that those priorities are still accurate, and that we have local information and regional context for these projects as they're developed.
That's good to know. But I mean, there's a couple there in my area that are being canceled or incredibly reduced that are gonna have a big impact, and that's something that we gotta talk about.
Yeah, has your agency ever considered working through, like, is it a statutory reason why the review is only on when we have an overage of money, a surplus of money, and can do additional projects? Or is that a statutory requirement, or is that kind of an individual agency choice? Should you transition and include in all policy planning as we start to lower our expectations for projects to have more local voice? Because I think if I'm hearing your point, Senator Harrison, it's that now is actually the most important time to get local feedback as we scale back projects. So is that a decision that you would be making as an agency, or is that a state law decision?
It's a policy decision.
Okay.
And I guess I would offer that to have that conversation, maybe I could come back
Yeah,
and represent how we sequence our projects, right? Because it is a two-step process. We want to get into the program. And then because every project moves at a different pace based on the complexity and, sort of the objective of the project. Then on an annual basis, when we develop the budget, we pick kind of where projects are in what fiscal year. And I've presented that.
yeah. Mhm.
And happy to do it again, and maybe we can get deeper into the weeds on exactly how we do that and why we do that.
Yeah, maybe it's
I
actually
think
more.
that would be helpful.
Yeah, we have had that presentation, but it would be good to have him come back and maybe we talk to Rich about including Damien in some kind of conversation around, to engage more local voices. I don't know. We have talked quite a bit about that. So is that something that you think you would be able to facilitate, having more local voices and regional planning commission input on the project prioritization?
Yeah, I mean, the relationship with the regional planning commissions and the kind of the communications out into the municipalities is pretty robust. It's the statutory. I mean, our relationship with the RPCs is codified the state statute that this is how we do our output or our outreach. And so I don't know how much more could be done in terms of like really bolstering or emphasizing that the importance of and the significance of that relationship. There's always, communications can always be improved one way or another. But I think we do a pretty good job, and the channels are available. They're there. We have our planning coordinators that cover the whole state and work with each of the regional planning commissions to sort of facilitate that two-way communication. So just be a matter of continuing to do that and thinking about if there are ways to improve that, I guess, or leverage that more, because it's definitely in place.
And-
Well, I'll talk to, I think we should have you come back and I'll ask Rich when he returns about that, and perhaps,
Yeah, that'd be great.
idea.
And if I could, because I don't know if we've actually presented that. So this team is now within the highway division.
Yeah,
And part of that move was to bring the planning team closer to our asset management team. So now it's actually asset management and planning,
Good.
and to kind of create a more seamless conduit. I've already met with the board of trustees of APTA and discussed kind of what our fiscal outlook is and how the RPCs can be involved in not only prioritizing project, but also, technical resources to towns and sort of some of our other planning initiatives. So I guess just to emphasize Dave's point, we are trying to I won't say improve, but make the communication much more transparent and two-way. And we've got a number of initiatives over the summer that we will partner with RPC on to address that will probably result in statutory changes next year.
oh, okay, that's a good,
And, I guess this is just saying that we are trying to re-energize our communication and partnership with the RPCs.
Good.
Yeah, and I think that'll help the whole entire thing. But I did just want to say, I appreciate your framing and explaining the highway division piece, because I'd say at least the rumor mill of why that move was made was maybe a little different than the framing you had just presented. I think there was concern that the move was to squeeze and lay folks off, and particularly lay folks off who are involved in climate change related work. So I don't know, I just want to lay that out on the table. I'm not saying that that's the case, but that was a helpful framing, because I think there was Yeah, so if you have any thoughts on that, feel free to, but I appreciate that was a different context than I was aware of.
No, I think Jeremy's comment about getting the planning folks and policy folks closer to the project development, the asset management aspects of the agency
It's wise.
is spot on, because when the staff that I oversee, when they go out to the regional planning commissions and go to the tax transportation advisory committees, inevitably, we talk about big picture things and long-term planning, but projects come up. And so for us to have a better understanding of how the asset management system is working in our agency and why projects are moving around as we run into hurdles with this one, but not on that one. It's just, I think it's a good opportunity that we're taking advantage of right now with this move in the agency to get better, just to get aligned better with understanding that, so that when we go out, we can speak about it
Yes.
fully aware of why things are going on, how they go on.
And I think that is even a disconnect that's happening, is there is a lot of policy planning that's happening at the regional and state level. And it feels at times that it is disconnected from the ultimate outcome of a project. So
Yes,
I
yeah.
think
So
that that's
yeah,
the,
this is a good idea.
All right. So just another slice or another kind of lens at what I've already shown you here in terms of how the budget is broken up and just the overall magnitude of it. Essentially, it's not a lot to get into on this one.
how do we get a second MPO?
Actually,
We grow a
No,
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
well, to have a mandatory MPO, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
darn.
There are other options. We can talk.
I like the
about.
money going.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is just the reflection of just to give you context about how our total budget has looked in this grouping over the years, and then the significant reduction in state funds that we were able to realize just partly through that restructuring. So it has been a benefit in terms of that and freeing up some state funds over time for match
But
purposes.
how many folks did you ultimately in the restructuring from your department how many folks are no longer employed?
Well, I mean the
Or
two
positions?
the
like-
most obvious ones are Michelle, who's retiring,
Oh.
right? She's gonna be retiring this spring, and then Amy Bell, who is the bureau director for this unit, is also retiring
Okay,
this spring. So those are the two, like, and those were sort of known quantities. We didn't know
Okay.
exactly when that was going to happen, but we were able to incorporate that into the budget planning process over the past few months. But otherwise, I think that's it, to be
Oh,
honest.
okay.
In
Well, that's
this grouping of people. So, and those were known. So we're fortunate that we've still got really most of our capacity. I mean, I'd be lying if I said that Michelle and Amy didn't carry a lot of water,
Yes.
in particular areas.
two very productive.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but we're adjusting, and I'm taking on more responsibilities, and some of the people around me are taking on more responsibilities as well. And it's kind of it's a little bit of you have this generational change from a workforce standpoint too. So that's a little bit of that's going on right now as well.
Well, I would say we've really appreciated Michelle over the
Yeah.
last few years, and her specifically with the CCRPC knowledge she brought too. It has
Yeah.
been really helpful in
Yeah.
this conversation. So
Yeah.
hopefully we continue to have someone in a position that can
Yes.
offer that kind of
Yeah.
real hands-on support to the legislature.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, there we go.
Yeah.
We've got, did anyone have any? Yeah,
So, sorry if you mentioned this about the Act 250 piece of your work. Is that include the Act 250 permits you apply for, or just your response as a mandatory, or is it?
It's the latter, and Jeremy is much more familiar with the project development process, and that's where
Just the
that
project
yeah.
development.
Yeah, so our
Yeah.
environmental section within
Yeah.
the technical services bureau will handle anything we are the applicant on.
And who will replace Michelle's role? Is there a person? Don't we know?
No.
There is, well, go ahead.
Okay, so Patrick Murphy will be the state policy coordinator,
Yep.
and so he will be the face
Right.
of the agency, I think, next session.
Nice.
And then again, a lot of the team came to highways, so from a division director piece, I will assume that role.
Okay,
And then Clea Broussard, who I think has probably testified, She is leading the intermodal division now, where it
Oh,
consists of rail trails, rail and aviation,
And public transit.
and public transit, excuse me.
Does it seem like Michelle played a role across all the whole agency
Yeah.
about just if we had a question,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what about this thing? She was like, okay, I'll put you in with Costa or whoever the person is.
Yeah.
And that was very helpful.
Yes, and I think it happened to be that person moving forward.
So we're gonna need cell phone number.
She made herself very available.
Yep.
Yeah.
Appreciative. And she was always here, which other agencies, but being on the committee, being on the committees, other parts of state government don't do that. I don't know if you just have, you're a bigger agency, obviously, than a lot of these other ones, but it's a striking difference between the relationship this committee has with the agency of transportation than other committees have with their departments of jurisdiction. And I think it's been good for the committee's work and for the agency's work.
And I fully expect that to continue with Patrick and certainly all be present. You know, we certainly do not intend to be less visible.
Great.
Good.
Yeah, any other questions? And then if not, we can.
Just a little bit, just, how many people do you have who are
Sure.
who are coordinating with the RTCs? Because our
yeah.
guy is very, responsive.
Yeah, we have
Good.
Matthew Arancio manages that group of staff, and then we've got 3 people that work for Matthew that are points of contact for the RPCs.
So there's
Yeah.
like 7 RPCs, or no, there's
14.
14,
14.
because,
Yeah.
so then do they have
They each have a few.
like 5
kind
or
of, yeah,
so?
yeah. And Matthew's the primary point of contact for the MPO activities.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's working well,
Good.
yeah,
I'm glad to hear that. It's a very important part of what we do.
it's really important.
Well, if there's no more questions, thanks, David. We
Yeah.
can go off live and then come back at